Hey guys, it's Madison and welcome to this week's video, which is going to be an intensive reading vlog, more specifically an intensive Korean reading vlog mostly. So the kind of backbone of this challenge is going to be reading through this novel here called 불편한 편의점 2권, aka The Inconvenient Convenience Store Book 2. I read through Book 1 here last year actually. I really ended up enjoying this book a lot more than I thought when I read the first chapter or the first few pages of the first chapter. It ended up being a really good book. I think my favorite book I've read so far in Korean actually, and so shortly after finishing this book I went ahead and bought the second book because like I said, I really enjoyed it. I figured I would enjoy the second book as well, but I wanted to give some space before actually starting it, and so here I am several months later, probably like 4 or 5, maybe 6 months later, finally starting to tackle this novel. I'm really curious to see what this book is actually about because the kind of central character in book 1 is basically gone at this point from the location where the book takes place, or at least I assume he'll still be gone for this book, but according to the back it says this happens a year and a half after the events of the first book, and it's at the same location it seems like, so I'm curious to see kind of what they do in book 2 and if it's as good as book 1, but we shall have to see. So that's kind of the primary goal for this week, is reading through this book and hopefully finishing it by the end of the week. We'll see if that actually happens, or at least making, you know, a good chunk of the way through the book. I was curious earlier, and so I actually looked through my records for last year's language learning to find out how long it took me to actually read through this book, and it took me almost 11 hours. It was like 10.9 hours. So basically 11 hours to read through this book. And this book is actually, I don't know if you can tell on screen, but this book is actually 50 pages longer. So it's probably gonna take me a good chunk of time to make my way through this. And this is a regular old work week for me, so I'm not sure how much time or energy I'm going to have every single work day to work on this, but the goal this week is to do as much as possible. And in addition to that, I have some other kind of reading things I also want to do this week as well, not just reading this one book, but also kind of tackling other reading projects in mostly Korean, but also perhaps some Chinese and Japanese here and there. One of those little side quests, for example, is this book, which is about street linguistics in Korean. Linguistics was my major during my master's degree, and so I want to become more adept at being able to discuss things related to that topic in Korean. So hopefully I can kind of make my way through a little bit of this book at some point this week as well. And aside from that as well, I have other kind of projects back here that are reading related that I can work on this week as well. But yeah, that is the gist of it. I don't have any like really set time goals or page goals or anything like that necessarily this week. I just want to do as much reading as I have the time and energy for, and hopefully get a lot of reading done. Hopefully, if I can, finish this book. If not, get close to finishing it. And yeah, that's basically the goal for the week. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into reading. All right, so it's currently 4:50 p.m. about to dive into the book for the first time. You can see the iridescent kind of flakes on the cover there, but yeah, the goal for today is to read through the end of the first chapter, which ends on page 45, but today is Monday. I did not get enough sleep last night, and so I might not get that far depending on my mental energy and focus for today, but that is at least my rough goal. We shall see how far I actually get. So it was not the smartest decision to sit on my bed to read today because, as it turns out, I'm actually exhausted. So about 10-15 minutes into reading, I started like actually almost nodding off, like literally my eyes be like drooping closed and I'd be like, no, open, focus as I was reading. So not the best reading session I've ever had, but I did manage to get a decent way through the chapter. I think around halfway through in that 45-minute-ish study session, so that's pretty good. I might try again later after dinner when hopefully I have a little bit more energy to get a bit further in the chapter. If I continue to be this exhausted today, then I'm probably not going to read much more, if any more, honestly, just because that was a bit of a struggle. But what I am going to try to do is do a bit of Do Chinese now. While most of this week is going to be focused on Korean reading specifically, today is the very, very last day that I have access to my premium subscription of Do Chinese, so I am going to try and read one last little short story on there before I lose access for a while, until I decide once again to renew my premium subscription, which will probably be in a few months, but that just depends on when I feel like buying it again. But yeah, for today, I think I found the story I want to read. It's called The Love Potion, and as you might suspect, it involves romance and actually a love triangle. The description reads, Changyang works in the local drugstore and is in love with his neighbor's daughter. His friend He Fang is interested in the same girl and asks Zhang Yang to mix a love potion so that he can win her love. So love triangle plus love potion. Hopefully it's interesting. It's only a short 4 chapters long, so it shouldn't take too long to read. It's based on a vocab of 600 characters, so I'm expecting not too much unfamiliar vocab, but again, we shall have to see. I'm gonna move to a less comfortable spot, probably the dining room table, so I have less chances of falling asleep while I read, but yeah, I'm gonna go work on this now. I just got back from reading in the park and it's story time because I had a really bizarre experience while there. So I got to the park, I set up at this cute little bench swing that overlooks kind of a pretty part of the park. I start reading and like 2 minutes into my reading session, this lady walks by with a Pomeranian. She keeps on walking by, but then like 30 seconds later, she comes back with her dog like in her arms and she's like, "Yogi satarka?" And I'm like, "Yogi? Yogi?" And so she like motions to me to like scoot over on the bench and I'm like, taken aback because keep in mind there's 2 picnic tables that are empty right next to this swing, along with in front of that like 8 different benches that are all empty, but she wants to sit on my bench swing with me. And so inwardly I'm like, are you joking? But I do like scoot to the side because I was sitting in the middle because I was alone sitting on this bench and I had like my stuff next to me on the bench, but I kind of scoot over a little bit and she like parks herself right down next to me with her Pomeranian on this bench swing. And instantly the mood was kind of broken. It was hard to like focus on reading with this lady right next to me, like swinging the bench for me. Like I have no control over the movement of the bench anymore, so it was kind of distracting. The dog is panting like right in my ear, so I just hear like while I'm trying to read, and it was just really distracting. And so I was like, well, should I get up and leave? But I had just gotten there. I had literally come to this park for this pretty view while I read, and I felt like if I got up at that point, it'd be like losing to her. And so I stubbornly was like, no, I'm gonna sit here until she leaves and I'm gonna keep reading after that. I was here first. Why should I be the one to move when this lady and her Pomeranian come and sit next to me? And so I just kind of sat it out. But yeah, definitely was not the best reading session while she was there. It was so hard to focus on anything the book was saying at that point. Honestly, those few pages that I read while she was there were just kind of a blur, to be totally honest. And so in the midst of all this, I decide, okay, I'll just take a quick break, check my email, and hopefully she'll leave in a minute or two and I can get back to reading. And during that time, the dog, she kind of like let go of the dog and the dog is like wandering in between us on the bench and then decides to kind of start climbing up on my lap. And the lady's just sitting there, just letting it all happen. And so I'm like, well, I like dogs, I guess I'll greet the dog. And so I put my hand out for the dog to sniff. The dog sniffs it kind of happily. And then I move to like scratch its head. And the lady instantly is like, "Don't touch my dog." And I'm like, okay, sorry, like your dog's half in my lap right now because you're just letting it be on the bench with both of us here because you chose to sit on the one bench that had someone on it in the midst of all this empty seating, but sorry, I won't touch the dog that you let crawl halfway into my lap. My bad. So that was just really bizarre. Thankfully, she kind of grabbed her dog back at that point and like 5 minutes later left the bench and left the area, but I was just like, what is going on? How strange to just the one spot that had someone already sitting there, ask them to move so you could squish your way into the bench as well, and then get mad when your dog climbs into their lap and they try to give it a little head scratch. It was just a strange experience, honestly. I was glad that she only stayed for like 5-ish minutes before leaving, but honestly, it kind of put a damper on what otherwise would have been a perfectly nice outdoor reading session with a pretty backdrop. But whatever, I did manage to read for about half an hour. Definitely like the reading speed was not nearly as fast as was yesterday because again, I was so distracted, and even after she left, I was like, what just happened for like 10 minutes. So I was kind of distracted again and not really reading at full capacity. But yeah, as far as how the actual book is going so far, I'm liking it so far. It seems like only one of the kind of set of characters from the first book is recurring in this book, and she was kind of the POV for the first chapter. And I think at the end of that first chapter, we had our appearance of our kind of main character that is like replacing the interesting kind of central character in the last book who is gone now. So I'm curious to see how that's going to turn out. I'm like 10-ish pages into the second chapter now, and it is the POV of a girl who recently graduated college, I think, and is currently trying to get a job and is struggling with the current job market in Korea. And it seems like she's about to apply for the titular convenience store of the book. So we'll see how that goes. But again, I'm enjoying it so far. I think I might change my goal actually. I know I initially said that I want to finish this book hopefully this week, but honestly, even yesterday on day one, the idea of finishing that whole chapter was a bit overwhelming and stressful, to be totally honest. Like, it was a good chapter. I enjoyed reading it. I'm glad I pushed myself to read it, but it took over an hour and a half, and I'm just not sure I can push myself to do that much of that book every single day during a work week. And so I might just kind of ease up on my expectations for that book and just read what I can every single day. I still want to read it every single day, but maybe not a full chapter every single day, because it was just kind of weighing heavily on my mind already from day one. And so I'm going to relax a bit in terms of expectations there. And that way also I think I can do more of a variety of activities this week related to reading. So yeah, with that in mind, I think the other thing I want to do for today in terms of reading besides that novel is something news related, because it is Tuesday, aka Newsday Tuesday, which is kind of a fun play on words that I sometimes like to do in my classes. And so I'm hoping to do a little bit of reading of news, probably just some easy news from my textbook over here in the background that I've been going through like occasionally in little spurts over the past like 6 or 7 years probably. So that is the only other kind of big goal I have for tonight. I might read more of that novel if I feel like it. I might not. We shall see how the time works out. But yeah, that is my plan for today. Happy Wednesday. Quick update with kind of my thoughts and plans for the day. Originally, when I was kind of envisioning my week, I thought I would have my Korean language exchange meeting tomorrow. So I was planning on reading one of these chapters in this book, which is kind of academic reading passages that are like 2 or more pages on some fairly advanced topic, and kind of doing the exercises and writing part of that chapter so that I could then discuss it and maybe have my writing checked in the meeting tomorrow. But my language exchange partner said that she's really busy this month, so we're going to postpone our next meeting until May, unfortunately. So probably not going to do this today, just because once again I am extremely sleep deprived today. This happens to me every single week, I feel like, where I will be tired on Monday afternoon, I will be exhausted all evening, and then 11 o'clock rolls around and I am just suddenly the Energizer Bunny, because I am a night owl and I tend to be more energized at night. And so I'm tired all day, and then the time comes around to go to bed actually, and suddenly I have all this energy and want to work on all these things and end up not going to bed when I should. And then the cycle restarts because I'm tired the next day, and it's just a never ending problem. But hopefully today I will fix that issue and go to bed earlier. But because of that last night, I am pretty tired today, and it's day 3 of being a little bit more sleep deprived than I should be, so I'm getting like more and more exhausted every single day, honestly. So I'm not going to do this kind of intensive academic reading today. I'm going to wait until probably the weekend when I have more mental energy to tackle one of these longer, more difficult leveled readings. So for today, I'm going to kind of just do what I feel like doing, kind of go with the flow and just follow my heart where it leads me in terms of what I want to read for the day. Hopefully that includes some of this novel once again, but I'm thinking about kind of maybe sticking with the cute sounding names and doing a webtoon Wednesday perhaps today. I do really enjoy webtoons, and it's a lot less mentally taxing on me to read webtoons despite it being native level material, so that could be a fun thing to do in the evening when I'm kind of winding down for the day. Today is also the day I'm supposed to do my next run. I'm trying the Couch to 5K program, and this morning it was raining, but thankfully it's sunny now, so I'm going to give it another hour or 2 for the ground to dry out a bit more. But I'm hoping to go out and get that third run done. If you saw my vlog last week, it was a struggle. The first 2 runs, I was so sore and just in pain for a few days, but thankfully that has gone away in the last couple of days since my last run. So thankfully it seems like my legs are getting a little more used to being legs that run occasionally. So hopefully I won't be too sore after today. But yeah, aside from that, I think the main thing I'm trying to accomplish today is just working on editing a video I'm going to post this week. It is the kind of fun vlog video showing my adventures with my friend Krista around Korea and Japan, and it requires a lot of editing, so it's probably going to be very time intensive, so I need to get a decent chunk of work done on that today. But yeah, aside from that kind of hazy possible plan, I'm just going to kind of let my tired brain do what it feels like doing today. We shall see what all ends up actually getting done as the day unfolds. All right, so as you can see, 11:45 and I'm in bed for the night, which is a huge win for me, honestly. I might actually get 7 hours of sleep tonight, we shall see. But before I go to bed, I'm gonna quickly read a little bit of a webtoon. I did great today on achieving a couple of my goals. For example, I did my run, I did a ton of editing, so I'm really happy about that. However, I didn't even touch Korean yet today, so going to do a little bit of that before I go to bed. I think I might catch up on this webtoon. It looks like there's 5 episodes to read that I haven't read yet, so I might do all 5 of those before bed and then hopefully get a good night's sleep so that tomorrow I will be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and able to study a bit more Korean. It is clearly the next day, Thursday, and today is going to be very similar to yesterday. My goal is to go through and finish editing all of the existing video for my Korea-Japan travel log so that tomorrow I can film any necessary kind of connecting talky bits. And then in between and after working on that, I'm hoping to do as much reading as possible in Korean, hopefully a bit more than yesterday. Hello, welcome to my Friday. It is finally my weekend. I finally got a decent night's sleep, so I'm not quite as exhausted as I was. As you guys saw, I did my 4th run for the Couch to 5K program this morning, in which my running intervals increased by 30 seconds of time, which kicked my butt for sure. I was really tired after that, but I also managed to film some of the talky bits for my Korea-Japan vlog that I'm putting out tomorrow. So later today, I'll have to put those into that video and edit those down. But aside from that, as you guys saw, I did a bit more reading of my novel today. And that is basically all I've done for today. It's somehow already 5:30-ish in the afternoon. I don't know where the whole day went, honestly, but I'm hoping to do a decent bit more of language learning today. Originally, I had very grand plans for how much reading I would get done this week, but so far it has not panned out that way. I've just been so busy and exhausted and editing a ton and not really had time to read that much every single day, unfortunately. So I'm hoping to really sit down tonight and get a decent amount of reading done. I also had grand plans for this weekend and figured I'd have all 3 days of the weekend to really dedicate to reading in my languages, but I had forgotten that this weekend is actually a conference in Seoul that I was planning on going to until my coworker reminded me a few days ago. And so actually I'm probably not going to be around very much on Saturday and Sunday. I might have some time in the evenings, but again, I'm not sure how exhausted I'll be after attending the conference each day, because I'm sure I'm going to be drained socially from all the small talk and, mental energy put towards that. It is what it is, obviously, and hopefully I will still manage to get a decent amount of stuff done, but it just won't be quite what I had pictured coming into this week. But yeah, moving on to tonight, I might go ahead and start working on the next chapter of that novel because the title looks interesting. It's talking about gondes, which is like the like overbearing older coworker vibe in Korea. So I'm looking forward to like seeing what kind of gonde situation is going on in chapter 3. I might actually crack open my News in Korean textbook again because I enjoyed that on Newsday Tuesday. I might do some more webtoon reading, perhaps some Japanese reading, maybe even some of the more advanced stuff like my advanced reading textbook or my linguistics book as well. We shall see honestly what kind of I'm in the mood for as the day progresses, but hopefully I can get a decent amount of stuff done. Alright, so just got back from day 1 of my conference in Seoul. It's already almost 7 o'clock p.m. and I left the house at like 8:30 a.m. So it feels like in the blink of an eye my whole day is gone. But the good news is that I realized last night that I could turn my 5 or 6 hours of subway sitting time between today and tomorrow into webtoon reading time. And so I was pretty successful today with that. I managed to read a little over 2 hours of webtoons between, my commute to and from Seoul. And not only is that good for my reading, intensive weekend, it was also just a fun way to pass time on the subway. I don't know why I haven't been reading webtoons all the time on subways. It's a great way to make the time go faster. So tomorrow I plan to do the exact same thing on the commute to and from Seoul to read webtoons as much as possible. And tomorrow actually it should end a bit earlier in the day as well, so I should have more of my late afternoon and evening time to, relax and enjoy the rest of my weekend before heading back to work on Monday. But for the rest of tonight, I still need to put the final touches on my video that I want to post tonight, so I'm going to focus on that. Probably won't have time for much else, but we shall see if I do manage to squeeze anything else in as far as languages are concerned. All right, so it is Sunday now and a bit of a change of plans because I didn't end up actually going to the conference today because I slept terribly, and then when I woke up, I looked at the schedule and realized I'd be like traveling for almost 4 hours just to go to like an 80-minute panel basically. And so that didn't seem like a smart thing to do, especially when I was just so exhausted after the terrible night of sleep that I got. So I decided instead to just stay at home and have a chill day. I did go outside to go for a run this morning, which is run number 5 of the Couch to 5K program. So proud of myself for maintaining that for almost a solid 2 weeks. But anyway, yeah, I decided instead of wasting my entire day just to go to one basically hour-and-a-half panel at the conference, I would stay at home and get a much needed just chill day of rest. I'm gonna stay in PJs all day, not be really on camera, and just kind of chill and do a bit of language learning here and there. Starting with Saturday Reader, as you can see, I think I'm going to do a bit of reading something on here. I haven't decided exactly what yet. I might reread either Akiko's American Foreign Exchange or the Hole in the Wall series because I've read those before and they're kind of on the easier side, just as kind of a way to again refresh my recollection of some basic vocab. But probably going to start there and then just do a few more kind of relaxing things. Probably no really brain intensive things like doing any of my advanced reading textbooks or that linguistics books, honestly, just because again I'm exhausted today and I just want to kind of chill and have a nice easy day at home. So that's the plan for today, and I will check back in with you guys again probably once this week challenge is over.
あきこの日記留学1日目
All right, time now for the final little check-in of this challenge. I'll go ahead and put a chart up on the screen that shows what I did every single day from the past week. As you can see, Monday and Saturday were pretty strong, and the other days ranged generally between about half an hour to an hour of languagey stuff. Literally everything I did this week for language learning was reading activities, so all of this is reading time, and this is all of my language time for the week, and it totals to just under 8 hours, with most of that being obviously Korean. Throughout the actual week itself, as I was filming, I was feeling a bit disappointed, to be totally honest, in how much I was accomplishing, but looking back now, I am actually pretty satisfied with what I managed to get done. If you average it out per day, it is over an hour of reading stuff per day, which is definitely much more than average for me, especially during work weeks where I don't typically do any reading at all. So I think it's pretty good that I did manage to do this much throughout the course of a busy, tiring work week, especially when you also factor in the very time-consuming vlog that I was editing at the same time. So all in all, I get why my results are this way, and I really need to work on setting actually more realistic expectations so I don't constantly just disappoint myself all the time when my results don't meet my wild, unrealistic expectations that I set at the beginning of a week. So hopefully I can be a bit kinder to myself in my next week-long challenge, which segues into my reminder that in just a few days, Joe and I will be co-hosting a language challenge. It is originally, I believe, a 40-hour, 7-day language challenge, but even if you can't do 40 hours, I really encourage you to set your own goal and just try to work on languages alongside us throughout the course of the week. I will link Joe's video and my community post down below in case you want more details, but I really encourage all of you to join along because the more the merrier. I think Joe will be posting updates on her Instagram, so you can check her out there, and you can also check out my updates on the community tab of YouTube, so make sure you follow along there. I'm going to be posting daily there throughout the course of the challenge, so if you are going to participate, I really encourage you to check out those posts and kind of share your successes and your goals along with us so we can cheer each other on throughout the course of the challenge, as well as keep each other accountable as well. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you guys over there in the community tab, or if not, in the next video. But until then, annyeong.